Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you're here. I'm not the most confident in my slick backs yet. I got a slick back bun back there. Just wanted to share because I feel like I look eggish right now on camera, but we're gonna blow past that. Today's video is going to be the book recommendation tag that Steph Borer, I think, created around January-ish, just like early of last year, and I'm finally getting around to doing it. We're gonna go ahead and get right on into it. I have about 20 questions that I'm gonna answer, and I'm also not repeating books, so I had to go down the list of all the questions and kind of like go through and stuff like that, and some of them will have more than one answer, but I'm not repeating any books because I didn't want to make it like boring for you guys, and I wanted you to get as many recommendations out of this video as possible. So we're gonna go ahead and start with question 1. A book you tell people is your favorite. I have a lot of favorite books, but Happy Place by Emily Henry truly takes the cake in my personal opinion. Now, I would say it definitely takes the cake for romance specifically. I'm gonna reread all of Emily Henry's books this summer and see what I think and like redo my ranking whenever I read them closer together. But this book just honestly like melted me. I don't know how else to explain that. It just melted me. This book had me giggling and laughing and kicking my feet. I related so much to our main characters, but it also had me literally bawling my eyes out. It's just so good. It talks a lot about friendships and how whenever you grow up, life changes, friendship changes, all of that kind of stuff. It's just so good. If you're going through your 20s and going through any type of change, this is the book for you. You will probably relate to these characters like no other, especially like post-grad, like directly post-grad. You would eat this up and relate to this like no other. Question 2, a book that is your guilty pleasure. I have 3 books that I'm going to talk about, all for 3 different reasons. The first one is going to be a part of a series, but it's honestly just talking about the whole series. It's Heartstopper by Alice Osman. This is a newfound love of mine. I read the first 4. I haven't read the 5th one yet, and the 6th one's coming out soon, I think later this year, hopefully. But yes, a newfound love for these graphic novels. Actually, I used to love graphic novels whenever I was in like middle school, elementary school, that time period. I wasn't a big reader back then, so that was literally some of the only reading that I did, and I haven't picked up one since. So I picked this up, I tried it, I was kind of nervous. I didn't know if I was gonna like graphic novels as I got older, and this is also a male-male romance, and I don't read a lot of those, so I just really wasn't knowing if I was going to like relate to the characters as much. I ate this up. These are so good and so deep and just so real for them being graphic novels. You would never expect that out of a graphic novel. I mean, in my opinion, I remember whatever. I guess the ones that I was reading whenever I was younger, they were a lot more like happy-go-lucky, you know, joyful, silly type of things. But these get so deep and real, and Nick and Charlie are 2 main characters. They are everything. I love them. The next one is a book talk classic, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Smut. Period. That's the biggest reason why this is a guilty pleasure. If you've read this book or if you've heard about the content that is in this book, and I'm talking about me reading it, that instantly makes me feel embarrassed. And I think this is probably the guiltiest of all the pleasures that I have when it comes to reading. Specifically this book though. Specifically, yeah, the Uber scene. Come on, what even was that? For this one, this is a recent read. This is Flawless by Elsie Silver. All I have to say is yeehaw. Wasn't expecting to be into cowboys so much, but boy oh boy I am. Question 3 is a book everyone loved but you didn't. I have 2 for this. The first one is honestly, it's a controversial, it's a controversial one. I know that some people love this and some people hate this. Most people love it. I kind of hated it. This is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is basically in a fairy tale-esque kind of world, and this is YA. The plot just wasn't plotting. I just truly didn't enjoy it very much. I think that the atmosphericness, I guess you could say, of it is nice, but I don't think that there was like enough of that. I just really didn't. I don't know. The main character in this book too really bothered me. Her name's Jude. I just felt like she was just kind of like bland. I don't know. I didn't really have much personality. And I was just expecting so much more out of this, I think too, just because it was so hyped up and so like widely talked about and loved. And I wasn't even expecting going in for the romance. This is trademarked as an enemies to lovers romance. There's barely even like a crumb of romance in here, and it's literally bully romance. If it's qualified as romance, it's bully romance, and that is an ick to me. So for me personally, it's a no. Okay, absolutely not. This next one is a book talk classic. This is one of the first books that I really ever read whenever I got back into reading as an adult. It's Evelyn Hugo, specifically The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have loved every single other book. Well, maybe not loved. I have, I think, 2 5-stars by Taylor Jenkins Reid. One True Loves and Daisy Jones and the Six. And a few of the other ones I liked a lot. Like, they were good. This one? No, ma'am. I thought this was so slow, especially as a new reader trying to get back into it. Maybe I need to reread it, I don't know, but I just like, I could not get into this, and as it kept going on, I just like wanted these 2 main characters to be together so bad and say like like, screw it, we're just gonna be together. I feel like there were a lot of plot lines and a lot of miscommunication in this book that I just didn't really enjoy, and that made me learn that I don't enjoy miscommunication in books. A book you read the fastest. Now, this is a series, but I read all 3 of these in like 1 day, I think, or something crazy like that, maybe like a day and a half tops. All of these within 24 hours. Well, each one within 24 hours. So all of them would be like 48 hours. And that is The Summer I Turned Pretty. These are such quick reads. They're YA. They're just basically about a girl. I mean, you guys know. You've seen the series. It's the same thing in the books. I mean, actually, the plot in the books is a little bit different. Honestly, there's more that happens sometimes in the series. Specifically, season 1, there's a lot more that happens than in the book. But these are all around 300 pages, if not under. We've got The Summer I Turned Pretty, number 1. It's A Summer Without You, number 2. And we'll always have Summer, number 3. These were cute, fun, atmospheric. Were these my favorite? No, because there's miscommunication and just like a lot of things that I just did not enjoy. Is it really great as a series? Yes, I think it's really great as a series. As a book, just not really my favorite, but I did absolutely devour these. Number 5 is a book that deserves more hype. I actually have 2 books that I think deserve more hype. The first one is The Heartbreak House Share by Emily Merrill. This is basically about a girl named Flick, and she breaks up with her boyfriend of a super long time. She thought that they were gonna get engaged, and that just did not end up working out. So she ends up moving into a house share, which for us Americans, you will guess, it's literally just like an apartment with roommates. But she doesn't know any of them. She's kind of in this like post-grad phase in her life where she's trying to figure stuff out too. She lives in London, so she ends up making this thing called a 20s list, which is literally just a bucket list for her 20s, to kind of like reclaim her singleness and reclaim being her own person. It's just a very refreshing read. This is like a contemporary romance. The romance isn't the biggest part about it. I did enjoy the little specks of romance that we got, and the guy in here was just very precious and cute and very likable. I didn't personally relate to this book a ton, but if you relate to this book a ton, like if you're going through post-grad, going through a lot of changes, same thing with Happy Place, just in your 20s trying to find your way, I think that you would absolutely love this book and relate to it so much. And then we have Just My Type by Fallon Ballard. I have never heard anybody talk about this author. I know a lot of you guys have commented on my stuff whenever I talk about her, saying that you love her books and stuff like that, and that I should read her other books, which actually I have one of her books on my TBR this month, so hopefully I'm gonna get to that. But this book is about a girl named Lana, and it's a rivals to lovers. Her ex ends up coming back into her life, and they were both writers, so they both end up writing and competing for the same like job spot. And the competition is something that their boss created, so they're both gonna be writing articles every week for like a few weeks, and each week they have to do a task and write about that task. And this just has so many good tropes, so many good things, and I absolutely fell in love with her writing in this book. I thought it was so fast-paced, so fun, so easy. This is the perfect mixture of rom-com and contemporary romance, because sometimes I feel like things can be a little too serious on the contemporary romance side, and sometimes things can be a little too cringy and rom-com-y. This was just a perfect blend and mesh. I'm pretty sure I rated this a 4.5. I just absolutely love this and ate it up and like devoured it. It was so good. I found this book because my friend Brooke made me blind dates with the books a while ago. I think it was in February that I read them, and this was in there, and I'm so glad that she put this in there because I really enjoyed it. You guys should definitely check out these 2 authors, Emily Merrill and Fallon Ballard, if you have not yet. A book that is becoming a movie/TV show. I'm gonna say book lovers just because of the fact that I have a few other Emily Henry books in the mix on my computer right here that I'm looking at for my list, and I don't want to like re-say everything, you know what I'm saying, like I was saying at the beginning. I'm also not going to take it down from an Emily Henry stack because it's just very cute and I don't want to. This movie has been talked about and in the works for I feel like quite some time. I feel like all of Emily Henry's books are eventually just going to be movies because they're just so popular. It's not my favorite Emily Henry book, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. Number 7 is a book that I've reread the most, and that is without a doubt Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is the first book in the Harry Potter series. I absolutely love this series. If you don't know what it's about, if you've never heard about this, if you've been living under a literal rock, respectfully, Okay, this just has all the nostalgic vibes, and I love this book so much. So that's why I've reread it so many times. I think I've reread it. Have I only reread it twice? I think with watching the movies I thought I reread it more, but no, I've only reread this twice. I want to get more into rereading too as this year goes along. Like I said, I want to reread Emily Henry's books that I've read already, and I just want to reread some of my other favorite books, whether that's like physically or through audio. A book from a genre you don't typically read. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is not just a romance, this is not just a fantasy, this is a paranormal romance. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the book where I was like, huh? If you do not know what I'm talking about, maybe read up on it before you read it, okay? Will I read another one? We'll see. That's all. A book that deserves all the hype it gets. Yeah. Yeah, this book was incredible. This series is incredible. This is the Throne of Glass series. This is Queen of Shadows. This is book 5. At least book 5 in the order that I ended up reading it, because it is literally just so incredible. All the twists and turns and stuff like that. If you want to read this series and you haven't, do not search up any fan art, anything on TikTok, anything on Instagram, because you will get something spoiled for you, and I've had so many things spoiled for me, and so just because, whoa, talking too fast. Since there's such a long series, there are so many things you can get spoiled for yourself. So don't do that. Ask a friend who has read it to do that for you, or just wait it out. You can do this, you can be patient, and you can wait it out, because it's worth it for the twists and the turns that this series brings. This book was incredible. This book specifically, just read it. Okay, I can't say anything more. A book you usually recommend whenever you get asked to give a recommendation. Now, I will say this is probably the book that I have recommended to most people that are like my age and I think would enjoy all the things that I read. I don't think this is a book that I would like recommend to my mom or my grandma or something like that, just because I don't think that they would like this, but Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is by far one of my favorite books of all time. It is a YA rom-com-y romance. It's about this girl named Liz, and she basically makes a bet with her neighbor Wes to get this guy to go to the prom with her, and it's just so cute. When I think of a YA romance, I think of this. I am going to reread this book this year before the second one comes out, and I think October. This is just such a wholesome book, and I just absolutely love it. I ate it up, and I really want all of my friends to read this so I can just hear all of their opinions on it. One of my friends so far has read it, Brooke. Hey Brooke, if you're watching. I know for sure she's read it and she like loved it. It's a 5-star for her too. But this is so good for somebody who's first getting into reading, just because it's so fast paced. There's so much stuff that happens in it. And I feel like it's really easy to relate to too. Number 11 is a book that has your favorite characters in it. Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I just have to say that Abby Jimenez's writing is just so beautiful and wonderful and rom-com-y and amazing and real and authentic, and I just love it so much. These two characters in here are Jacob and Brianna. This is dual POV, so you get to see a lot of their sides. Jacob is just this perfect little cinnamon roll, sweet, anxious ball of a human. I just love him so much, and I just want to give him the biggest hug ever. Like, we have to protect him at all costs, and Brianna is just so perfect for him. The way that she understands him, the way that she talks him through things, the way that she's just such a bright, bubbly person on her own too, and she's just going through so many things. She's so strong and she's so independent. Like, they are just so meant for each other though on so many different levels. There's so many good things in this book. This book does have miscommunication, but I just love these characters so much. If I could be their friends, be either one of them, I would, because I just absolutely love these characters so much, and I connected to them on a really deep level, and I love them. And obviously for that too, I have a lot of other favorite characters, but I could only pick one. So yeah, same thing with this one, which is a book that I wish I could live in. Obviously, would I love to live in all these fantasy worlds? 1000%. Would I survive? Absolutely no way. So I will not be doing that, and instead I would like to live in this world. I would like to live in Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I think if I was Macy, I think my world would just be amazing and wonderful and magical and beautiful and great. Period. And this world is just so cozy and fun, and I love it. So this is the one for me. If I could survive, it'd be Throne of Glass or Avatar, but there's literally no way. Or Once Upon a Broken Heart, which we'll talk about later. We're gonna take a brief pause because I have to go to a meeting, but I'll be back in literally like 1 second for you. You won't even notice I'm gone. Okay, the meeting is over. I am back. Sorry if the lighting's a little bit weird. I had to turn on some like overhead lighting, which I know it's the worst, but we're just gonna have to make do because it is getting a little like gloomy and dreary outside. It's literally gray outside my window right now. So we're just gonna roll with it. Also, the last one I was talking about, a book I wish I could live in. I wish that I could be in this type of scenario just because it seems like a good scenario. I don't wish that I could live in like this town, I guess. I feel like I didn't really explain that very well. Anyways, you get it. We're gonna move on. Next up is a book that I thought I would hate, but I ended up loving, and that is One Dark Window by Miss Rachel Gillig. This book is described as like a gothic fantasy, and if you know me, you're very, you know, accustomed to what I like and what I don't like whenever I read. You'll know that I'm scared of everything. So when I hear gothic fantasy, I'm like, fantasy? Love the fantasy part. Big fan. Gothic? I'm probably going to have nightmares tonight. Did it do that? Absolutely not. So I ended up loving it a lot more than I thought I was going to. This is also one of the most unique magic systems that I've really ever read about. The magic system is basically like tarot card driven, but they call them providence cards. And whenever you touch a providence card, you get like the power that's within it. And then there's also people who have like an illness and they need to be like, you know, this world, this atmosphere, this magic system. I just really fell in love with this book. This was like a 4.5 and I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend, if you haven't read this yet, definitely give this a read. Now, question 14 is a book that made me cry. I've cried in many a books, many a times, and you know, books just really take it out of me. I'm a crier when it comes to books. I'm a crier in everyday life too, if we're being real. But especially whenever it comes to books, like, it does not take a lot for me to shed a tear. Now, when we're talking like sobbing, like can't breathe, can't speak, can't think type of crying, that's also not as rare as you really would think it would be, to be completely honest. And there are a lot of books that have made me cry, like I said, but honestly, The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston made me sob my eyes out. And the majority of this book is just talking about grief and all those stages and everything that you go through, and it was just so like deep. Like I just absolutely fell in love with it, and the writing just explained it so well. Like, it was just so good. And I just remember absolutely sobbing. I think I read this in a reading vlog. I think I read it in my fall reading vlog, I'm pretty sure, that I posted last fall. And I just remember sobbing, like absolutely sobbing. And I ate this book up too. This book is so good. I feel like it's not talked about enough. I know the 7 Year Slip by her is talked about so much and raved about so much, but I really love this one. 15 is a book that I wish I could read for the first time again. Now, I'm not going to say Throne of Glass series because I basically already talked about that, and for one, I haven't finished the series yet, so I feel like I don't like fully know, if you know what I'm saying. But there is another Sarah J Maas series that I wish I could read for the first time again, 1000%. Specifically the original trilogy, the first 3 in the series, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin. When I tell you that this book, which by the way, I have reading vlogs on all of these if you want to check those out. Those 2 back there too. Those just weren't like my very favorite, but okay, incredible. The twist at the end of this book specifically threw me for a loop. Tamlin, what are you doing, babes? Tamlin, literally, what are you doing, babes? And then this entire book, whenever they're going through like war and ruin with wings, you know, because bad boys. But it was so wild. This book was just so wild. It was a wild ride, and I loved it. And I loved how like we got to see a lot more of like Feyre's power. I did not explain what these were. If you haven't heard of Avatar, it's basically about a girl named Feyre Archeron, and one day she kills a wolf out in the woods, and it ends up being a Fae, and she is human, so she ends up getting taken to the Fae realm because they're like, hey girl, you can either come with me to the Fae realm, or, you know, you can just be done doing the living. So she went to the Fae realm as a human, which is like super dangerous, and she lives out her days, and this is her journey of that. And I just really love Feyre so much. I have a really big connection to Feyre. I think I want to reread Nesta's book back there. I just don't really, I don't know if it was like I read it at the wrong time or what. I just feel like I didn't judge that one fairly, so I feel like I need to reread it whenever I'm in the mood for it. But these 3, when I tell you, I went through so many emotions, so many things while I was reading these books. They were just so good. And this was honestly like a big introduction into fantasy for me, besides Harry Potter obviously, but I already knew those stories and stuff like that, so hearing the twists and stuff like that while I was reading, it was absolutely insane. And if you oh my god, I can't even speak. If you have not read these beautiful books, you must. Number 16 is a book that could cure a reading slump. Now, I think that there are actually like several books that I've already talked about that could cure a reading slump really great, and some that I'm going to talk about too later in the other questions. But the one I chose for this one specifically is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know I already talked about Evelyn Hugo by her, but this one is a 5-star read for me. So that one I don't like as much. But this one I absolutely devoured and loved. This book is basically about a band in the 70s and how they come to be and how the rock star lifestyle kind of changes everything. And the biggest reason why I think this would be so amazing for a reading slump is because you get every character's POV and it's kind of written like a play. So they're like answering interview questions and stuff like that. It's just like such an easy read, and honestly like it feels like you're reading a reality show. Like you're like, what is going on? There's also crumbs of romance here and there. There's like 2 different little romance things going on. It's only like 330 pages. This book flew by so quickly for me. I read this before I started reading, like I think at the time I was reading 4 books a month, so like a book a week, and now I read so many more books a month, and I think this really kind of got me going into the reading more books a month because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I just didn't want to put it down. All the character story were so interesting, and I love how each character had their own personality. I feel like a lot of the time whenever you get so many different character POVs, it's kind of hard and they kind of like bleed together and stuff like that. Taylor Jenkins Reid, this is a masterpiece. I literally, all these characters are so good. And it's so good because I love this book so much, like 5-star, 6-star read, but the characters are sometimes like insufferable and like hard to root for because they're making such tough decisions. It's, guys, that's all. Okay, it's a series too, so if you haven't watched the show either, you should definitely watch that. 17 is a book you think everyone needs to read. Now, this is a book that also kind of started me on my fantasy journey, and I feel like there's a lot of different books I could have picked for this one, but specifically the reason why I think everybody should read this one is just because it is so fun. There are so many different elements to this book and to this like little trilogy series. There are fantasy elements, there are fairy tale elements, there are mystery elements that are just so fun. Miss Stephanie Garber, she keeps you on our toes, and it is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. The second one in this series, which is The Ballad of Never After, is probably the best one in the series in my personal opinion. A lot of people would agree with me on that, I assume. And it's just so interesting. Like, I have never truly read such a fun and fairy tale mystery fantasy-esque book, and it's YA too, so it's just like very big font, very easy read, and yeah, I don't know. I love Stephanie Garber's writing. I love this series. It's so good, and I'm really excited to see what she writes next. Number 18 is a book you think would make an amazing movie. I just picked Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is one of my favorite books by her. It's a 5-star read for me, and January and Gus's love story, they're the 2 main characters in that book. They're just so precious, and I just absolutely love them. And getting to be in that like small town Michigan, like I just feel like anything by Emily Henry would just make an incredible movie, like kind of how I said with Book Lovers. Also, again, not taking it down because I like my little Emily Henry setup that I got over here, but I just feel like January and Gus's banter and seeing them in person and being able to put like faces to the names and the characters that are already having such a big like sway on me emotionally, and I have like such a big connection with them, would just be so fun and amazing. I feel like she just has to make sure she casts the right people. So yeah, I don't know. I saw like a sneak peek for possible casting for that, and I was like, fine. Okay, Paul Mescal. Okay, Paul Mescal. Besides that though, movies and TV shows of ACOTAR Throne of Glass, if they do it right, you know what I mean, would be incredible. And I also think better than movies, you know, honorable mentions, but better than movies would also make an incredible like YA rom-com-y movie. It would be so good. The last 2 were kind of tough for me because I was honestly just gonna pick the same book for both, but I didn't, and you'll see why. 19 is a book you wish everyone would give it. Oh my gosh, that scared me. Question 19 is a book you wish everyone would give a shot, even if it's out of their comfort zone. I'm gonna preface this with, I know a lot of people are like one genre people. A lot of people just read romance. A lot of people just read fantasy, just read mystery, just read literary fiction, or they just mainly read one genre. And a lot of people are trying to get into other genres. So this is mainly for you besties that read a lot of other genres but don't read fantasy, because I think that you would absolutely eat this up, specifically if you love romance. I think this would be a perfect first fantasy book for you. And you've probably already heard me chat about this way too much if you watch my channel a lot, but Powerless by Laura Roberts. Yeah, you must read this book. This is the one that I actually physically read. This is the UK edition, and I have it tabbed and stuff like that. I'm so excited to go back and look at my tabs whenever I reread this year before the second one comes out. And this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition that I bought because it was a birthday gift to myself, and I just really wanted a special edition of it, and it's stunning and gorgeous, so I got it. In this world, you have a kingdom, and basically in the kingdom, there are elites and there are ordinaries. The ordinaries don't have powers, the elites do have powers. Now, there are like different levels of those powers, but we're not gonna get into that right now. And basically, they exile all the ordinaries, so if you don't have powers, you're like out of here. And if they find you and they see that you've been like getting by and like lying that you're an elite, like you're out of here. And this is also a dual POV, which we love, and the two main characters, Peyton and Kai. The tension, literally, you could cut it with a knife, but I don't even think that the knife would be able to break the tension that is created, because that's how strong it is. This man had me folding the entire time. The way that he talks about her is literally insane, and they're literally like on opposite ends of the spectrum. Like, he's an elite and he's a prince and he's an enforcer too, so he literally goes to, like, you know, the ordinaries. Peyton is an ordinary. So yeah, if you liked the Hunger Games, you would love this. You would literally eat it up so much. I talk about this book so much on my channel. I'm so sorry that I talk your ears off about it. I probably will until the series is done, maybe even longer than that. If there's one book recommendation that you get out of this video, if you have not read Powerless, please. And then the last question is a book that I will never forget. Now with this one, I could have gone a lot of different ways. I could have done some of my favorite books, some of the books with the best plot, all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, we already talked about how much of a scaredy cat I am. So I feel like for this question, it just makes sense that mysteries, like just as a genre, is the answer to this. Right here, I have the first two books in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and Good Girl, Bad Blood, and then the first book in the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is just called The Naturals. These are by Holly Jackson. I ate these up and absolutely love them. They're both YA and they're both series, which is super great too, so if you want to like continue with the characters, you can. But I truly will never forget these books just because I get so scared out of my mind, even though they are YA and stuff like that. Like, I will never forget what happens because it's ingrained into my brain, and that's honestly really it. If you have any YA mystery series that I should read, let me know, because I've honestly been on a YA mystery kick and I have been loving them. Okay, that was actually the last question. I'm kind of thinking this would be fun to do maybe next year around this time, just to see how much my book taste has changed with like all the new books that I've been reading and stuff like that, because obviously next year we'll have a lot more new releases. I'll have read a lot more books, so obviously it's probably going to be pretty different. I will have all the questions in the description down below too. If you guys want to answer them, you guys can copy and paste them in the comments and answer those in the comments. I felt like that would be fun. Or let me know if you guys have any opinions on the books that I talked about, any books that you want me to read, maybe in reading vlogs, anything like that, any video ideas. Just comment down below all the things and we'll just chat down there in the comments. Also, don't forget to comment down below the little heart hand emoji. I mean, I'm doing it like this, but it's actually like this. Comment that down below so I know who the real ones are who made it to the very end of the video. And if you want to keep up with me on the daily, go ahead and follow my Instagram, my TikTok, and my Goodreads especially if you want to keep up with what I'm reading in real time. And yeah, I hope you guys absolutely enjoyed this video, or having a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. Did your boat break down? I'm gonna sneeze. Okay. You know, whenever you sneeze and it just like takes it out of you, that's what that was. This book is a then this book is a then and now this book is a then and this is this book is a then and now timeline childhood. Oh my gosh. Hello?
Hi, I'm locked out, sweetie.
Oh, okay, I will come.